Yeah, cool. Sounds good. So let me go ahead and pull this guy's comment up because I know that it was the first thing we were going to talk about here. So we've got to log into Spotify. Fine. There we go. Comments. So comment comes from user named Boogo. At least I think that's how you pronounce it. It says, the Crustle take strikes me as slightly scrubby. And so for anyone who either didn't listen to last week's episode or maybe forgot it already, I made several comments or took the stance last week that I felt that Crustle was essentially not a Pokemon deck, or that you weren't trying to win the game when you sat down to play Crustle, and you were instead list checking your opponent and hoping that they would essentially just lose the game. And so before I don't know, not necessarily re-explain my stance, but kind of attempt to potentially provide further context, maybe defend myself essentially against this comment, John, I wanted to figure out, did you think last week, was I way off base? Like, is Crustle way more skill intensive or more of a Pokemon deck than maybe I gave it credit for? Or are you on Team Aaron and you think that Crustle players are, people call Joltik Box and Raging Bolt players like crayon eaters, and they're sitting over here not doing anything. They're just going to go visit the coloring table when they go to the regional. Are the Crustle players really that far elevated from that other group of players, or are they kind of in the same category?
I don't know how you can play Crustle and then like truly defend it from a skill expression standpoint. Like, do I think it takes no skill to play the deck? No, I don't think so. But I also think like most of your wins are literally your opponent doesn't have an answer. Like, sure, there are things they can do, and there are ways you can play Crustle to where you can like maneuver it and engineer it, all that kind of stuff. But like overall, it is kind of a list check deck. You're doing the same kind of strategy in a lot of your matchups. It doesn't really change up too much from matchup to matchup. And if your opponent has that answer, then yeah, you're just kind of stuck for the most part. So I think I'm a little closer to your side, but to the defense of Crustle, we did see it perform fairly well this past weekend, getting third place in Sevilla. And if you look at the metagame percentage, as far as the conversion percentage for any deck that was played over, like if there's 22 copies of it or more, essentially, or like 10 copies of it or more, it had the highest conversion from day 1 to day 2 at 40.9%. So, which is crazy. Like Grimmsnarl is 32.6. That's fourth, or that's second to Crustle. That's like the next one down. And that's a pretty steep drop from one to the other. Now, granted, this is a special event. But like, let's go back to Houston. We can look at the metagame percentage for that for Crustle conversion rate wise, and for decks that have over 20%, or this time in Houston, there was 60 players on it. It had a 38% conversion rate, and it had a 38.3% conversion rate. The next one, again, is Grimmsnarl Frostlass at 34.9. So I think I will side with you on this idea that it doesn't take a lot to like really pilot the deck decently well. It really just reminds me of like a quad Sigilyph or something like that, where you're just checking to see if your opponent has a way to beat it. And if yes, then you go to lunch early. If no, then I don't know, they punch a hole through a wall.
You might still go to lunch early, right?
Yeah, right.
And I even said last week, I do think that Crustle or quad insert Pokemon, like wall strategy decks, are a totally fine and viable tournament strategy. I just don't think that they are necessarily the intended type of deck that card designers are looking to put into the game. Like the set that Crustle came out with, it came out with Yanmega. That seemed kind of like that was the cookie cutter intended pairing for the deck. Was I'm going to push up my Yanma, or Yanmega rather, get the extra energy out of the deck, shoot them back to my Crustle, and that gives me my backup attacker and or an alternative option when we're playing a game. And obviously, players can take creative liberties when you get a set of cards. You can build whatever deck you want with whatever cards you want to. And the kind of the skill of Crustle, the skill that I will attribute to the deck, is fully in the deck building of it. And that's where we've seen things like, initially the deck played Monkey Dory as well. Now those are gone. We are fully just on the quad wall strategy, and we're playing like the Jumbo Ice Cream was a big boon for the deck. You have the spiky energy for countering Badoos and or other potential attackers like Charmeleons and Charizard matchups. But at the end of the day, you're not really outplaying your opponent once you actually sit down at the table. So is it, again, fully viable tournament strategy. Still not what I would personally consider a Pokemon deck. And you fully, whatever listener, Bugo or anyone else, is fully within their rights to disagree with my opinion. It is an opinion. Everybody gets one. And I don't think that it necessarily is good or bad either way. I don't understand why me thinking that Crustle decks aren't Pokemon decks would be considered like a scrub take. Fully recognizing the validity of it to play within a tournament while still simultaneously saying, like, what if I was going to sit down and play, I'm trying to think of a Crustle type archetype in a different card game and trying to figure out because it's not really control, right?
No.
It's not the same thing. Like if I took Pidgeot or if I was going to play, like, I don't know, I haven't played a ton of Magic, but I know that blue is typically like the control color, and if I was going to play like a mono blue deck and just try to counter everything that my opponent is doing, I would attribute that more to something like Pidgeot control than something like Crustle. Crustle's just like, I don't really have a good comparison for other card games, and maybe that just goes into I haven't played other card games enough to really expand into it properly. But I just think that like Crustle is well positioned right now because people aren't respecting it. Like the conversion percentages that you mentioned are admittedly super impressive. Typically we say if something's got over, I think like 18%, it's doing well. And when you have something, 60 copies of a deck in a tournament is nothing to sneeze at. And to still have a 30 some odd conversion percentage is amazing. The one in Sevilla is a little bit different. Like once you get down to like 20, 25, obviously every single member that does convert is worth more percentage points. And therefore the number isn't quite as impressive, even though it is still relatively large. But I don't know. I just thought that Bugo came at me a little hard there in that comment, and I wanted to make sure, maybe defend myself a little, make sure that I wasn't necessarily misunderstood.
See what they'd say, like that'd be the fun, like, because I think I'm with you. Like to say it's a scrub take implies that like maybe you lost to it at one point and like you're just mad that you lost. Like that would be kind of like that. The scrub take is like get good, like just find a way to beat it. If you're mad about losing to it, then tech for it or beat it. Don't complain about it. So I guess that would be like the way that they were approaching it. But I don't know. I mean, and that's kind of, I think it's an interesting format. Like it's so late now to where like if this, because the decks become popular and because people are kind of set in their ways and already looking forward to the next format, like no one's teching for something at this point in the format. Like no one's like analyzing I have a bad Crustle matchup, let me fix that.
Right.
They're at this point they're just like, well,
what it is.
I'll just lose, and then if I lose, I lose. I just wasn't. So I think Crustle's eating good because of that.
Oh, for sure.
The fact that people aren't really putting any effort into countering anything in the metagame. Like we've seen Frostlass, Muckidori, and Grimmsnarl kind of have that same benefit, I'd say. And I mean, I plan on taking full advantage of that this weekend. So, I
think the interesting thing to me is that Crustle didn't really gain anything from Ascended Heroes, right? So what suddenly makes it so much better position? I mean, I guess you could say like Gardevoir being on the downtrend is probably the real kind of onus for why people would feel more comfortable doing it. But
Gardevoir.
That's probably just the answer, isn't it?
Yeah, probably that. Charizard falling off a little bit, like with they had the Chi-Yu at one point, so they had a way to counter it. But not that that's like the best counter. Like I don't think. I'm sure Crustle's like, okay, cool, you can knock out one Crustle, good job.
Right.
I'll just
exactly
knock you back out, and then. But yeah, I don't really know. Maybe people are just kind of figured it out that it's just a strong counter to everything that's popular in the metagame right now. I really don't know the exact answer as to like why now and why Crustle. There's other decks that kind of have that same kind of thing, I guess, where we've seen them come and go like that. What was it? Like, Festival Lead also, I guess, had a resurgence over the weekend, and then.
Well, that one's more explainable, I think.
That's fair.
Like,
we can get
honestly.
Into
Pokepad is probably like the bigger thing, and like we talked about a couple of results here, so I'll go ahead and pop up the Sevilla results, just kind of grain of salt, etc. Blah 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 blah. Smaller event.
Yeah,
we did, and when
how many people were at it? Just before we get into it,
I mean, it was still 1,300 people, so about the size of like a West Coast regional. What, like 3 years ago? Like right directly pre-COVID or post-COVID, 2-3 years ago. maybe.
Yeah,
Something
maybe
like
that.
that.
Like a Vancouver regional 2019
Yeah.
or 2022.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, still respectable number of people, but it's not one of these 2,000, 3,000, 3,500 play. I think currently Orlando's got something like 3,500 people signed up for it. Now, granted, that's
Jeez.
all age divisions, but still, a lot of people. But we do see some interesting decks in top four here. Obviously, it wouldn't be an EU event if Goldango didn't make a deep run. So we've got a Goldango in top four, another one from Christian Fontenot in top eight. But the big standouts here are the fact that Festival Lead made finals and that Crustle managed to make top four. And I don't think Crustle was really going to eat well, regardless of which matchup it had in top four, given that we had, either Festival Elite or Gardevoir. I mean, maybe, I guess if they had matched into Daniel here with the Goldango deck, then it would have been fine, because I believe that Christian actually did play against the Crustle player. Yeah, Christian played against Oscar Rivas here with the Crustle deck in top eight. And that was his ultimate downfall.
Did Christian not play Megalopunny?
No, he did.
Oh, he did. Maybe he just brought it up before it evolved.
Right. Well, it's either you just fully target like you said, target the Baneri, or if you've got the Luxurious Cape on your Crustle and you get enough ice creams involved there, a couple with Pokevital A. I think that there's enough of a workaround there that eventually, you can kill my first three Crustals, but can you kill the fourth one? And that's where
this list is so. There's not even TM Turbo Energize. You're literally manually attaching. I mean, I guess you have the reversal energy to spray one out if you're behind, but man, that's just crazy to me.
No, you're just trying to go the distance.
This is I have a Crustle and this is, I don't know. It's not horrendous, but it's not enjoyable to look at, if I have to say.
Right. And you're just kind of, again, at the mercy, there's no draw engine with the deck. So you're at the mercy of your top decks and hoping that your opponent either doesn't have an answer, or it's an answer that's difficult to piece together, or, whatever the case may be. And admittedly, in a tournament setting, most people don't want to tech for Crustle because it has been a relatively low meta percentage deck. In Houston, it was up a little bit, not significantly, but it was a higher level. And I guess maybe after this result being in the mix as well, it has the merit to say that it should retain that percentage. I was under the impression that after Houston, might respect it a bit more. We'd either see more Gardevoir play, or people would start teching for it more, and it would get kind of tamped back down appropriately. Oscar proved maybe that's not the case, and people may need to be on the lookout for it when they get to Orlando.
Well, I mean, just to play the counter part of it, Oscar did well at third, but the next best placing Crustle is at 70th.
Okay, no, that's fair. Oh, actually, so that's a comparison we can look at real quick. Let's see what the matchup difference is.
We did have a large day two conversion, but I would think that players in day two maybe have a better way, or have more. Well, wow, he just didn't lose a game day phase two. Okay,
but you get Zoroark doesn't have a great answer. Tank Kangaskhan, what are they going to do? Set up a bunch of Monkey Dories and hope you can't chase them down? Charizard is not super great anymore. Pulp matchup can go either way. So I would argue Oscar got relatively favorable matchups up through until he got to cut. I know, if you look at the matchup data, Grimmsnarl is actually relatively unfavored, just because with Pokepad you can kind of play Frostless Monkey Dory into Crustle, and that's where they kind of falter.
You can just run a Frostless deck and then kind of bullet damage that way.
But then ultimately playing against Ethan Wild's Festival Lead deck, no shot. You're never winning that matchup. It's just impossible. But what I was curious about is with that next best placing Crustle. Nope, there we go. With that next best placing Crustle here, I'm not going to pretend that I know how to pronounce this name, but how did Vigo do? And we see Lopunny Dusknoir. I could see that being a relatively bad matchup.
Yeah.
Ho-Oh Armarouge for sure would be a bad matchup.
Gosh. Yeah, I don't know how you beat that.
Another straight Mega Lopunny deck.
Yeah. So those are pretty rough.
And a Gardevoir. So just, you hit the matchup roulette button on your Crustle deck, and you hit some pretty unfortunate ones, and you don't make cut. You go 8-3-2. And you tie against Dragapult, because that's definitely 100% possible.
I think that's definitely what you can expect if you play this kind of deck. Yeah. So, don't really want to talk all about Crustle. There's some other stuff going on that we're pretty interested in. We had a Festival Lead deck pop up, played by Ethan Wild, who's been on kind of a rogue deck enjoyer. Like he's played, I think he the raging, not raging bolt, the iron, or not, what is it called? The fire guy.
I need a
What
bit
is
more
it?
than that. The fire guy.
Paradox guy. Paradox fire.
No,
Iron, not
no,
iron.
you're thinking of oh my gosh, what
Sorry.
is it called? It's the Entei thing. What is it? Now
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
me stuck. I cannot remember what the heck it's called.
Right? Oh my
Okay, we
god.
got it.
We're gonna look so dumb. That's
Walking
fine.
Wake, Raging Bolt.
Iron Flame? No.
But in any case, you're thinking of somebody else.
Yeah.
For what
Okay,
it's worth,
cool.
there is a different British player. What?
Okay.
I'm gonna have to Google this right now though. Paradox Entei. Gouging Fire. That's the guy.
Yeah, okay. Great. Thank
Never
you
would
so
have gotten
much.
there.
Yeah,
But
I'm totally
Ethan
blank.
did this season do really well for himself. He won Birmingham Regionals, but he was playing Poltnor, so not a
Okay.
rogue deck by any means.
No, you're right. I misspoke. I was misremembering. So yeah, definitely a huge departure for Ethan, but kind of cool. I mean, honestly, if he's won a regionals already, he's just kind of like playing what he wants to play, and very cool to see this deck do well. I mean, we saw Andrew Kennett take it to day 2 in Houston and have a nice, pretty deep run with that. He, I think lost 2 of his last 3 to miss out on cut, but before that was doing really well. And really just cool to see like somebody believe in that kind of a deck and go and play it and do decently with it. I don't know. Did you watch any of the games? Like, I don't know how much of the regional you watched, but
I watched like just a little bit of the finals. I didn't get to see Festival Lead really perform to its fullest potential, especially playing against Gardevoir, where it's just really tough to prevent them from taking a multi-prize turn at some point because your basics have such low HP totals.
yeah, you talked about blessed with the matchups. No
Sure.
Dragapult, played against 0 Dragapult, and only played against 2 Guardies. One in round 2. His only loss before the finals was to Ted Tobin, the person he also lost to in the finals. So he lost to Ted Tobin in round 11 and then lost in the finals in this tournament. That just kind of, and then, yeah, the rest of it, I mean, very impressive. I mean, Golden Go, yeah. And nothing here that I think would be a super challenging thing. Like the Zoroark seemed like a free dub. So
I think
very
the
cool.
Frostlass decks have the potential to be difficult to I mean, I guess you
Sure,
can,
I guess
you can
that's
stagger
fair.
your guys a little bit and prevent that damage spread from really
He
accumulating.
did beat a Frostlass Monkey Dory in round 3, which is interesting.
Right. And then also beating 2, like Grimmsnarl is, I don't know, like I know I played against Jared Grimes at NAIC last year and he was playing Festival Lead. Now, notably, Festival Lead got a big boon with Pokepad, so I'm sure it's significantly better than it was back in the NAIC format. Grimmsnarl also has Pokepad, so it's kind of a wash, maybe. It also has Seeking now, and I don't think it had it back then. But if you just avoid putting Grimmsnarl down until you like really need to, I figured if you're bossing up or counter-catching Thwackies and kind of spreading damage and KOing the actual Festival Lead Pokemon while you're bumping stadiums to prevent them from being able to actually double attack, like it just seems like it would be a little bit more difficult, but maybe I'm wrong. Or maybe all of these Frostlass decks drew horrendously, and that's what propelled Ethan into the stratosphere that he was able to reach. The other interesting thing that I saw here was he actually managed to, or he got paired up with Oscar in Swiss as well.
That's crazy.
Handed Oscar a loss on his Crustle deck in day 1, and then also met him again in the semifinals. That's an interesting
pretty wild.
stat. I wonder if that's
I think I'm with you. I don't know how do you beat Frostlass Monkey Dory? Like thinking about that, but I mean, I guess if you go fast and you get all you need, like you have, I don't know. I feel like if I'm the Frostlass Monkey Dory player, I just counter catch your Thwacky and then Iono you, and then what do you do the rest of the game?
Exactly.
Like,
that's what I mean. That's my first thought. I mean, we do see like the Air Balloon, obviously, and then we have 2 copies of Kieran, and there's a Jet Energy. So you've got some switching outs. But even still,
it still feels bad. I don't know.
Right.
I guess you just manually retreat.
Maybe the deck. I have not, admittedly, did not play this deck at all since Pokepad came out. Maybe it really is just that much more consistent than something like Frostlass Monkey Dory, and you can get enough cards set up to where you have multiple Thwackies in play on turn 2 prior to Badoo going into effect, or even with the Badoo in play. If you can get things set up in such a way that you can boss the Frostlass a couple of times, maybe that's enough to really just kind of get you over the line. if you've got like, I don't know, I would think that you would need something. It's weird because like you can't play Battle Cage. I mean, we do see a picnic basket. Maybe that's enough of a deterrent as well. You know, that coupled with staggering when you're putting these evolutions into play, it's just really, it feels really awkward because you have to kind of evolve your Applins almost as soon as possible because they do only have 40 HP. But then Diplin is also pretty fragile. So if double Frostlass is ever online, I just feel like your whole board is going to
cooked.
It's going to disintegrate pretty quickly.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'm surprised that had that. I mean, maybe he just got lucky in those matchups and like they didn't draw well. But like
maybe
it's. I mean, I don't know.
We'll have to see.
It's easy. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what he said about it. Like if he has a strategy for it or something like that. But I don't see it.
Maybe Kevin Clemente will come out of retirement and we'll get a Lake of Rage episode this week that has Ethan great. As a guest. We need somebody get Kevin on the line and make it happen.
Yeah, maybe we'll reach out. If you scroll down just a little bit, the Blood Moon Ursaluna deck, yeah, Sebastian. That was pretty cool. Very interesting. Running, what is that? What was the Terra? Koraidon?
Yep.
EX? That's
it's just like a big Kangaskhan answer. You know, like,
okay.
It's the revenge attack. A lot of Terra Box decks are playing it now too. Like, so if something gets KO'd, you attach E-Switch to it, and it one-hit KOs Kangaskhan. I think it does like 160 for the revenge effect. 170. Gotcha. 170. So like KOs anything fighting weak. I feel like in a lot of circumstances, Blood Moon Ursaluna is already doing that. So I'm a little... I guess it's a cornerstone answer as well because it doesn't have an ability. So you can move some damage over to the cornerstone and then KO it. But
yeah,
it's an interesting deck. I think this is something where like you've got a lot of this is a Tim Danklin deck, right?
Danklin. Yeah, he's the one that came up with the original concept, I'd say. This is kind of a variation. Running Tinglu and the Koraidon. But yeah, like the Calamitous Snowy Mountain and Vengeful Punch was definitely Tim Danklin's kind of, I think, brainchild originally. That's very cool. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that this deck's stuck around and done as well as it has. I think it's like, I mean, Blood Moon Ursaluna just is a good attacker. Like the fighting, like the baby one.
Yeah.
It just does a lot of damage for not a lot of like maintenance. And I think it'll be cool to like, this deck doesn't lose a whole lot going forward as far as I can tell.
Pretty sure it loses this card.
But there's other ways to damage yourself.
Yeah, you've got Risky Ruins, I guess. It's not as good, but it does work. But definitely, like if you look at post-rotation stuff, we're going to save most of that talk for next week because John has not played any post-rotation yet.
True.
But
I don't know what I'm talking about. So
Lunatone Solrock is still definitely good. Like Fighting Gong is obviously really good, and we still have Night Stretcher. Like you do have a lot of the cards here do not rotate. I mean, the only real losses are Earthen Vessel is a pretty big one, and Superior Energy Retrieval is not super great as a loss either. But pretty much the rest of the Vengeful Punch also goes away. But I think you can kind of live without that. I mean, if you really absolutely needed to, you could play something like, I think we have Rocky Helmet still, or something similar.
There's like the spiky helmet or something, I think, that puts 2 damage counters on something whenever it...
That's what I figured attacks. We had some sort of reflective damage thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, interesting deck. We'll have to see. Maybe it'll continue to stick around. Maybe somebody will go on a deep run with it in Orlando. But the deepest run of this event was from Ted Tobin with the Gardevoir deck. Nothing really outlandish in here. Like we don't even see the Spectrier come into play. And, Town Store in the deck. Just a lot of... We're back to 2 TM Evo, so kind of really respecting the Dragapult. But other than that, it's just standard Guardy, right? I mean, there's no Drifloon, but we have the Mega Diancie, we have the Screamtail, we have the Bravery Charms. It's Gardevoir. It's a good deck.
Yeah, I don't see anything that sticks out to me as absurd or crazy. 2 Charms is a little bit, like that's, I guess, normal, but, some lists weren't running any Bravery Charms, so definitely, seems a little bit more, but... It doesn't really kick. Like, oh my gosh.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fine. We're at end stage Guardy. Like, it's all the same.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of discourse this week. Again, it comes up all the time. There's online discourse about which card game is the most difficult or how difficult different card games are. And people talking about Gardevoir as this massively huge-brained deck that only the most skill-intensive pilots were able to pilot, or the people who were the most brilliant Pokemon players were able to excel more with this deck than the average everyman player would be able to. And I think that that's blowing a little bit of extra smoke up Gardevoir, or
Yeah.
maybe a little extra smoke up the Gardevoir players, like pumping them up a bit higher necessarily than they need to. Obviously, Henry Chow is extremely good as a player. I don't necessarily think that he is that much better at Gardevoir than, well, maybe that's not true. I do think he is actually probably better at Gardevoir than your average player. That's a pretty easy statement to make. But I also think that he would succeed regardless of what deck he was playing. So at the same time, we've seen multiple different players be able to succeed with Gardevoir because the deck just has so much raw power. And I think that there will be kind of this power vacuum when it rotates.
Yeah, the death of the Gardevoir is long overdue at this point. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's particularly like, yeah, does it take a lot of skill to pilot really, really well? Yeah. Does that mean that if you're a top Guardy player, you're better than everybody else? No. Like that's a silly thing to think. Like, I don't know. Pokemon wants to be gatekeepy sometimes with like the top decks, like the Mega Absol box deck. People are like, "Oh, that deck. If you want to play that next week at regionals, it's too late. Like, you missed that boat." And like, yeah, I guess like there's aspects of it that are probably less intuitive. I don't know. Like, it doesn't strike me as like it's an impossible wall to climb over if you're getting into the game. There's a lot of like I don't know if how you feel about it, but like if you watch like a new player get into the game, they stink for like a year or two even before they even get to the point where like they have the processes built in to see the lines to victory and have all the skills that they need to win a tournament, that kind of stuff. Like, it takes a while for them to like win their first League Cup for the most part, you know. And if they're coming over from a different card game, those skills translate pretty well depending on some aspects of it. Like, I've known Magic players to come into Pokemon and do okay. I don't think they're like blowing anybody out of the water, but they're solid. And I've seen like, you know, Hearthstone players do really well. I've seen like, I don't know, those are the two I can think of off the top of my head. But usually, like, yeah, I don't think it's all siloed off. Like, there's a lot of stuff that transfers over from other card games, and we don't need to have it be a contest at the end of the day. They can all be like uniquely challenging. I know Frosted Caribou put out a video recently comparing like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon.
Okay,
And that was pretty cool. Like, she did a whole deep dive into not just like their stereotypes, but also like the actual lore and stories of what organized play looks like for each, and what the competitive game looks like, and all that kind of stuff. So that was cool. I'd recommend it. It's like a hour and 40
what was the
minute long
conclusion
video.
of it? Yeah, I don't got time for that.
I don't. No,
Give me the cliff notes.
She interviewed a lot of people. I think she painted Yu-Gi-Oh as like the game itself is good, but Konami just doesn't want to support it on a competitive level. And Pokemon is kind of like, the game is good and Pokemon supports it, but she's brought up other aspects of the ways like that the TCG has struggled, where, you know, other games have been better, like the digital client being one, where live is just not a good client, remains not a good client. Like, I was trying to test today the format for Orlando, and I was like testing with Eric Nance, who said hi, by the way, because he's playing in Orlando. And so he was like, I want to test this deck out that I don't really have any games against anybody online. Like, he's been playing a little bit online on the trainer trials aspect of it. So that's at least an option.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, also, sure. We'll add you. We'll do a friend request match. And the only format you can play when you send a friend request match is standard. Why? Why is that? Why? Why can't we just do an expanded game between two friends?
I mean, I can give you a reason for that.
Okay.
I think that's because at least Western Pokemon is essentially done with expanded, and therefore like doesn't want to acknowledge it. Now, obviously, there was the article they put out last year with Stefan Ivanov talking about the expanded format.
Sure.
But, you know, when's the last time we had an actual expanded event?
That's okay, but like, what happens if I want to play against my friend playing GLC, or like playing straight up anything other than standard?
Play trainer trials and hope that you queue into them.
That's such a bad solution.
I'm not saying it's a good solution.
Yeah, that's
I do
terrible.
think like you could probably do something, even if you didn't want to have fully available unlimited or expanded or whatever, you know. we do have the card pool to support those, well, partially support those formats. You have, like, why can't you do a friend battle with trainer trials as the format, right?
Right.
Like that
Something like
should,
that.
I feel that should be an option 100%.
Yeah, just have a little drop down that says select what format you want to play in,
Right.
and just provide the format you already support. Like it doesn't make so like yeah, she picked that apart with live, and then like looked at how Unite gets no support from organized play.
I don't know. I haven't watched her video, so I don't know her full take on it. That
I don't know
maybe
enough about Unite to have an opinion on that, or
I don't
like
know how well researched it was, but from my understanding, like Unite's got, it has a competitive circuit, and it is laid out and structured as like an esports circuit. So it doesn't have necessarily, weekly local events that players or teams can go participate in, but they've got it structured more similarly to like League of Legends LCS format, where you have teams from each region that are kind of in the competitive circuit, and then maybe once or twice a year there are promotion games available for other teams, so they'll participate in this kind of play-in thing and get the opportunity to earn a spot in that professional circuit going into the next year or
that's
next
cool.
season.
Yeah, like again, I don't know a whole lot, but like I'm sure there's more to it. But she brought up how Pocket's kind of just fallen off really hard. It's hard
100%.
to argue with that. I mean, I still like open packs, but like the competitive game itself, it's kind of dead.
Yeah.
Like the online tournament scene's gone.
Oh, it
And
100% disappeared. Like that was being fully pushed by like Ursa Day and I think
yeah,
one other
and
person, and that the one guy like disappeared. Ursa Day shifted to Riftbound, to where she was actually like on an official cast for them at one of their big like regional events. So good for her, but
good for her.
bad for Pocket. They
Yeah, Pocket burned some bridges. It sounds like when they did like the Twitch streams, like they did a whole, like if like yeah, they did like 7 promoters for that.
Okay.
Instead of opening it up to whoever. Like it's not that hard to do Twitch drops,
Yeah.
Why limit it to 7? And then all 7 of them were English speaking casters. Like they had no pull into other markets like, Brazil or Europe or
even or Japan.
Like Japan. Sure.
That's crazy.
I don't know how big Twitch is in Japan, but yeah.
That's true.
It was, but still not, it's just like they've kind of fumbled the bag with some of the stuff. And I'm not saying that I would have done a better job or I know what Pokemon needs and doesn't need, because I don't really I'm not into that aspect of it, but like, it's tough. Like, I don't know. The game's growing a lot in the last few years. It's at a point where everybody knows what Pokemon is. We've had like multiple booms through, the release of Pocket. And I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next 6 months with Pokemon, whether it'll keep being boom. I mean, I imagine when the anniversary set comes out, that'll be another boom. Right now, it's a little bit of a lull with Perfect Order. The set hasn't been selling quite like they thought it might be, or it just doesn't have as many desirable cards. Like
right.
The fact that Meowth is like the poster child in a lot of ways, and Zygarde. I mean, we've seen Zygarde sets sit on shelves since they've printed Zygarde sets.
Whoa. Zygarde was one of the premier Pokemon in the 30th anniversary commercial during the Super Bowl, John.
Dude, that's such a plant. Like, you can't tell me that guy before he agreed to film it, like his favorite Pokemon was Zygarde. We're like, all right, ZA is huge. We need somebody to plug like like the legendary from ZA. What's the legendary again? Zygarde? Fine. Just put it out there. Complete form. Yes, complete form, please. Just no, I don't know, man.
It is interesting. I noticed I went into Target this weekend and I had to actually go to Walmart on a separate occasion after the set had released and saw cards on the shelves in both stores when, from the best of my knowledge, like we've had people camping out at both of these stores, like taking product off the shelf immediately as soon as it gets stocked. And yeah, because this doesn't have the big chase card, doesn't have Gengar, doesn't have Dragonite, doesn't have Pikachu, doesn't have Charizard, it gets the luxury, it doesn't have Mewtwo, it has the luxury of being able to sit on the shelf. And I don't know, we'll have to see. I'm assuming from a competitive perspective, I think that that's cool because I think that it makes the game more accessible when people can find product on store shelves and they aren't having to do things on a secondary market.
It's made the price of PokePad crash, so that's nice.
Yeah, for sure. That Meowth is kind of sitting up there. It's kind of in like the Pheasantipity
That's
price
fair.
range right now, like
Yeah.
8-10 bucks. But it'll come down at some point. At the end of the day, it'll probably end up being like a $4 to $5 card. It'll get released in like a trainer tool kit sometime next
Yeah.
year. But bite the bullet, buy your 2 to 4 Meowths, and you'll play it the entire time that it's legal. So
Yeah.
do not worry
It's
about that.
it'll be good for 3 years. That's one of those things that'll just there's not unless they print a card with the same text that does something better that has
There's
a
no
better
way.
attack or more HP. But it'll be interesting to see if they do more like what is the ability text where it hints at that you could run other Pokemon with the same kind of
Oh
ability.
yeah. Like last
So
ditch insert last ditch X, and it says you can only use one last ditch ability per turn. So that does imply that there would be other last ditch abilities, but we've also had a P-Dove in format for 3 years that implied that there could be an Unpheasant EX, and that hasn't played out yet. So,
yeah,
but I assume the last ditch thing is probably far more likely to happen than Unpheasant EX because
I'd say so.
it's Unpheasant. Like, what's it going to do? But that's enough kind of beating around the bush. I do think we obviously have Orlando coming up this week. You're going to be in attendance playing in your first event in over a year.
Oh
so
my gosh, Aaron!
definitely
Yeah, I'm shaking
interested.
the rust off hard. So I
Okay.
haven't played in a IC or regionals since NAIC in 2024. So it's almost 2 years now that it's been since I've played in an event. I made day 2 at NAIC that year. I played, I guess it ended up just being the Tord deck. Like I saw a deck on Limitless that looked really cool. It was the Lost Zone Dragapult deck that I guess Tord had put out in his Medify group or whatever you want to call it. And it was doing well on Limitless. And I'm like, that looks fun. I'll try that out. And I'm like, this is fun. You get to do both Recon Directive, Flower Selecting, and use Sableye and use Dragapult. Like, that seems pretty sick. And so that was a fun deck. It wasn't actually all that good competitively, if I'm honest. I cheesed a lot of wins with Unfair Stamp and Sableye and Countercatcher. Like, I just kind of ran through players after they took 4 prizes. You would just, okay, Unfair Stamp. And then, kind of just pick their board apart with Sableye and then Dragapult. It wasn't the best deck ever, but it was fun. And I did okay day 1. I only had 1 loss, and it was to Michael Bramwatt playing a Pidgeot Charizard deck that was just a better deck and a better person piloting it. So I'm not all that mad about it. And then day 2, like my deck got exposed for what it was, where it was just like, okay, this isn't a top tier deck, but it was fun. But yeah, since then I've been judging nonstop. I just, it's tough to like make the time to test. Like, it takes a lot to prepare for stuff as a judge, but even more so as a player. The amount of games you have to play in order to get your minds in the spot where like you're able to really like feel confident going into a tournament, for me at least, is like way higher than the amount of interactions I need to have as a judge or whatever to like feel confident as a judge going into the tournament. And I'm at the point now where I'm feeling pretty good about my deck. I'm leaning. Well, I don't think I'm leaning at this point. I am going to play Frostlass Monkey Dory unless a meteor like of a different deck hits me the night before or something like that. But my list is, I can share with it. I guess since our viewer base is so dedicated, they'll appreciate this, I guess. But let's see if I can.
I mean, that's the wave now, right? Like full transparency, post your list online before the event.
Yeah, that'd be fun to talk about. Let me pull it up.
Nobody has to go limitless check you, John. Your list will be fully publicly available on the internet.
More or less. I think I might change 1 or 2 cards, but like the majority of it will be.
No. You have to commit to this 60.
I have to like, as we're recording, I submit it to.
Right. But I will say, I think that you choosing to play a spread deck, sounds like it's kind of right up your alley. It's considering the last deck that you played at a major event was also a very spread-oriented counter-catcher. Your guy, place a bunch of damage counters on your bench. I almost would say, talking about that, like Lost Zone Dragapult, you almost have too many choices when you're doing that. When you're doing Flower Selecting and Recon Directive and Colress, and you're trying to figure out all these different things. And at the end of the day, realizing that you've got a bunch of extra like bloat cards in your deck when you could be playing Iron Hands instead.
Yeah, something like that. So yeah, I'll go over it real quick. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So I kind of looked at a couple different lists, but this one is primarily like the seniors first place list from Houston, I think. if I'm not mistaken, with a couple modifications. I like Blood Moon Ursaluna more than I like the Mega Frostlass. It's probably wrong. Like, I'm not even going to pretend like it's the right choice. I don't know. Like, idea that my opponent can play around my ability to close out a game just doesn't really sit well with me. Like, I like being able to just guarantee that I have a knockout at the end of the game. And like a lot of times I want to Iono and then attack with Blood Moon. So like that is kind of why I've stayed on that. I'm not running Tinglu, and that's like one card that I keep going back and forth about. The, I guess, spread 30 and discard a Stadium Tinglu. I think my rationale has been that the games where I have the thought in my head like Tinglu would be good here, I end up winning. Like, I don't think that I lose those games enough to where I need to put Tinglu in. You know, it's more like a win more card than an actual like shift a bad matchup into a good matchup, if that makes sense. So that's kind of my rationale with it. I also haven't tested a huge amount against like Guardy. I have played the games against it. I think the item lock carries that matchup for the most part, but it can get scary if they get like a bunch of Psychic in the discard pile turn one. That just becomes like really, really difficult to deal with if they go like, you know, Earthen Vessel, Secret Box, discard 3 Psychic, and it's like, okay. So that's tough. Shaman's an auto include, I think, and you know, even if it doesn't come up as all that much, the match, like, this card does swing matchups, you know, like, it's the end Zoroark that's playing the Darmanitan, like, you lose if you don't run it, that kind of stuff. Sudowoodo, I don't know, man. Like, it's another card where like it's bought me a couple turns throughout me playing this deck to where I'm like, okay, you know, I needed to like, I have a stabilization turn or just to build up a damage turn, and you can just get away with like Sudowoodo, bring up a Monkey Dory. Even if they can attack into Sudowoodo, it means that they're not attacking with something else, you know. I've found out that the more I play this deck, the more I just want to item lock with Badoo. It really just feels like 99% of the time that's the correct thing to do. And then you're only really I'm deviating from that when stuff goes wrong or you need to close the game out, essentially. Like the Devo, the Blood Moon, those are just there for like the last time you're attacking, essentially. You still want 2 Devo because against certain decks, like the Dragapult deck, you want to Devo maybe multiple times, and you do need to have access to it. So like if I have to get rid of one or it's prized, that feels really bad because there's just matchups that if I don't have access to Devo, I just lose that matchup. You know what I mean? Like Golden Go. Like if I can't Devo the Golden Go, I definitely just lose that. And that one you might want to actually Devo a couple times. So, and then the 2 counter catchers, I've seen lists that run just the 1. I think 2 is pretty necessary. Like if you want to get any value out of Sudowoodo, I think you probably need to run 2. I've switched off from Earthen Vessel to Energy Switch and off of Ultra Ball into a Nest Ball because I'm not running anything that is, I don't need an Ultra Ball. I don't really want to thin out stuff. I don't want to discard resources. Earthen Vessel, there were times where I'm like, man, it'd be nice to have Earthen Vessel here because there's times like I run 3 Dark Energy instead of just 2 that you can just pile 2 Dark in your hand and then, you know, Arven for Earthen Vessel. And then the next turn you attach 1 Dark. The next turn you attach the other Dark, and then you play a different supporter. That feels pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have cut an Arven, added a 3rd Bravery Charm, and cut Hilda and added Professor's Research. I just wanted more draw. Like Hilda was good, but it's less good if you're not running the Mega Frostlass, and you don't really need a lot of Search of Evolution Pokemon. Like the only one you're running is the Frostlass. To get the energy is nice. Like there's times where it's nice to be able to like Secret Box for Hilda and then Hilda and get the like Prism energy you need to use Sudowoodo. So that was nice. But I'm just like, well, you know, so be it. Like I'll just have to dig and find Sudowoodo if I have to go that route. So I think Research just has better utility as a draw supporter. Like you just want to see more cards sometimes. So that was my thought. But I'm interested to see, like, I know you've tested a lot with Frostlass decks, you know, not necessarily this variant, but I know you've talked with Hunter Butler and have had kind of conversations about his build and where he's gone with it. You can pick it apart and call me stupid for not running Ting-Lu or something like that, I definitely want to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, the Ting-Lu in particular, like you mentioned that you hadn't played much against Guardy, and I think that that's one of the matchups where it pulls the most weight. Like it's kind of the reason that you're able to win that game more often. You know, if you there's a couple of other cards we've seen the Elgium could also be a pretty
Yeah.
big one in that matchup in particular, being able to move the darks off of one of their Monkey Dories and then you pile a bunch of damage onto a different one. Another thing that or no, never mind, it doesn't work. We only play 3 dark. I was thinking like could you play a TM Turbo Energize in here? There was something that I had never tried,
Yeah,
but I
that
was
would be
like
cool.
would it actually function? Probably not. One card that I wanted to ask you about because we talked about potentially including it, and then I think we had a little bit of a discussion after the show last week about why people were cutting it, and I wasn't sure if you'd actually tried it at all. Was the Frillish, just because
Yeah,
being able to
yeah,
set up a Frillish with a charm is pretty strong.
yeah. I think it's good. I hadn't really tested with it. I have a friend in Richmond who is on this deck, who's
Okay.
also playing in Orlando. That is all on Frillish. He loves Frillish. He also runs like Iron Bundle,
Mm.
which I think is interesting, and I think it makes more sense if you run Frillish. But I don't know. Like it's good in the mirror. It's really good against Golden Go because they don't have a way to clear it. But those two alone, like I think more often than not, I just want to be using Badu.
Hmm.
Frillish takes up a monkey attachment.
Yes.
It can get stuck. Like if I'm playing in the mirror, I don't know. Like there's times where Frillish has the 3 retreat cost, and even if you're item locking and that's what you want to be doing, if like they have an LGM and they move the energy off of it,
Hmm.
then it feels really bad if they
Sure.
get stuck in the active. One card I've thought about putting in here is like an enhanced hammer, but I also think that's just like a win more card. Like there's really not enough scenarios that I've come up with that I'm like, oh, if I had enhanced hammer, I just win this game.
Yeah. I
But
mean, in a
yeah,
similar vein, like Sander Wojcik's been playing Monkey Dory Frostlass for a while, even before PokePad was legal, and he's actually been a proponent of playing Crushing Hammer in the deck. And just similar thing, like you'd get rid of the Neo Upper or the Luminous Energy against Dragapult, but you also then have the potential to get rid of a Dark Energy in the Gardevoir matchup, and that's where it really kind of diversifies itself, pulls its weight a bit more than maybe the Enhanced Hammer would. I think the big thing that you might miss is the Ting Lu, but it's all it's a mileage may vary card because it depends on how many Gardevoir do you hit, and it also
yeah.
has some merit attacking with it into Goldango because you Ting Lu 2 times in that matchup, and your Devo is live to just win you the game.
Yeah, and that's valid. I think the biggest problem I had was the games that I am not item locking feel really, really bad. Like, even if I'm like, okay, Ting Lu, and they're like, cool. Arvin for, like, now I have items, so now I can play my picnic basket and just negate your whole turn, or like, now I can just get back all my stuff I needed that you've been slowly whittling away resource wise till this point. I put it in and played against Guardy and like used Tinglu to try to build up like some damage, and they're like, okay, cool, now I have full access and can just discard 6 psychic energy this turn, and like now I can't win. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not bad. I'm not saying that, but it definitely felt like the games where it felt like that's a cool tech, and like you do it. I don't know. Maybe I just don't have enough sample size with Tinglu and against Guardy to like really have a conclusive opinion, but the couple games I played with it were just maybe I misplayed how like because it's hard to like judge when to use Tinglu, when to deviate from your like Buddy strategy.
Mm-hmm.
If you Iona them in Tinglu, like that's better value, but then you also have a small hand size, and then it's hard to get back into the stadiums to like actually get decent value out of Tinglu, like just hitting for 30 over and over again into something
that's terrible. That's not very good.
into something that has fighting resistance, like that feels miserable. So like
Right.
that's tough to like.
And that's where you
That was
also like I've seen lists that do play Ting Lu, they play 4 stadiums a lot of times.
sure.
The other kind of potential use case for Ting Lu, like Battle Cage, has seen a little bit of a resurgence
Yeah.
in this format. So being able to discard Battle Cage off of a PokePad versus just having to raw find a stadium, there's potential merit to that as well. Is that a good enough reason to include another bad starter? Maybe, maybe not. It just kind of depends on what you want to tech for, I guess, at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, I think at this point I've put enough energy into like not running Tinglu that I'm probably just gonna send it without it,
Sure.
and just hope for the best. Like I'm sure we'll see. It'll be interesting next Tuesday or whenever we record. Hopefully it'll be next Tuesday, but it'll be interesting to see like my final impressions of it. It's like, oh yeah, I lost this matchup because I didn't run Tinglu because they got their battle cage to stick, and then I couldn't do anything for the rest of the game. But even then, like, I don't know. I'm not really that worried about battle cage. Like, there's only a couple decks that are running it, and it's usually either like Alakazam and like, I mean, I'm not gonna sweat about Alakazam,
Sure.
or they run like one battle cage, and I can usually deal with one battle cage. You know what I mean? So it's not enough to good.
I think the only other semi-popular deck that's been including it has been Charizard, and I also wouldn't really be worried about Charizard.
No, I'm not worried about Charizard with this deck. Not to be, there are times where they can maneuver it, but it's not too bad. And Golden Go, like, to say you need Tinglu for Golden Go, I just put 2 Frostlass in play if I can.
Oh yeah.
And you just run through them. Like,
need is not the right word. I think that it just makes it easier. And to your credit, like you said, in that matchup, it feels like a win. It feels like a win more card. I think that the one where it definitely feels strong is, or can feel strong, is Gardevoir. And then it also, like, the reason you include it is for Gardevoir, and the reason that you feel okay including it is because it is also decent into Dragapult, Goldango, I mean Zoroark, and I guess theoretically like Alakazam and other like niche decks as well. It's basically any stage 2 deck, really any evolving deck. Tinglu is actually pretty good. Like, it's a strong attack. As far as like spreading 30 is not nothing.
No, I mean it's pretty strong, and like the secondary effect of discarding Stadium, like you said, does have utility. But yeah, we'll see. So I'm sending this list pretty much more or less like 3 cards different, and then I might make some tweaks the night of or whatever. I don't know. I'm playing in a league challenge tomorrow with the deck, and so like that'll help kind of give me some thoughts and opinions going into this. And then yeah, I'm probably just gonna have to like send it like Thursday and Friday. I don't think I want to play much Pokemon, if I'm honest. Like, I've played enough. I need to take some time to, like, you know, hang out with my wife and travel to Florida, and I think I get into like Florida around like 11, so I don't want to spend time testing that late at night.
No, absolutely not. That's not worth your time. You go to bed.
Yeah, for sure. You know, we'll hope for the best, and I'm hoping at least to make day 2. That's kind of my goal. You know, do I want to have a deeper run? Of course, but I think day 2 is kind of realistic. Like, that's not. And if I get into the point where I'm, you know, on the winning end, I think that's pretty good. But
I want to see a top 32 out of you this week, John.
Okay, yes, sir.
That's
I'll try to represent the podcast. Yeah. I honestly put a lot of pressure on myself, even though I don't play all that much, to do well at these events when I do play.
Okay.
And I'm like, you know, all right, this is like me getting ready, because like I love playing. I love playing at these events. There's nothing like it. Like, I'm not an athletic kid. I've always been kind of chunky and asthmatic. So like, this is as close as I'll ever get to like competing at a high level in sports or something like that. And I love that stuff, man. I'm a very, like, I don't try to be a mean competitive player. I want to play because I just love the game. I think, yeah, I've always, since I've started playing it, just really always wanted to be the best player I could be. Not that the best player ever, but the best player I know I can be. I think that's the challenge I set for myself, is like, if I have this amount of free time and I feel like I can get to this level, I want to get to this level. The chips fall where they lay. As long as I feel good about how I played, I think that's always how I approach events. And I think that's usually generally healthy, you know?
Oh yeah. I mean, you even look at people who have winning tournament runs, and if the best players, when they have their tournament runs, can still tell you that during that run they made mistakes. And sometimes you get bailed out by your deck. Sometimes you get bailed out by your opponent's deck failing, or it just being a favorable matchup. Sometimes, like, being a good meta call. Maybe you are playing Crustle this weekend. You know, if you hit the favorable matchups, like, good for you. Like, that luck is always definitely part of a success in a tournament run, regardless of how far you go. And as much as people do get salty about, oh, I only lost because I paired against this deck 3 times, that happens. Like, that's part of it. So being as prepared as you can is definitely important, but I would say don't put too much pressure on yourself. You know, go in, do what you can, control what you can, and, you know, be, what is that thing? I think it's from like AA. Control the things you can and be willing to accept the things you cannot, or something like that.
Yeah, sure.
So, I don't know. It's a good mindset. I mean,
yeah,
and I think that it's
I hope to, yeah. At the end of the day, I won't be really sad if I scrub out. I'll still have like lots of other opportunities to play Pokemon that weekend and hang out with people I don't really get to see and cube and do stuff other than just playing the
Yep.
main event. Like I won't be sad for long. I'll be a little bit disappointed that I didn't do better, but I'll recover. And I mean, I don't know. I'm not really planning on doing much in Orlando, if I'm honest. I'm probably just going to be like full Pokemon degenerate. So we'll see where that goes. But
Hey,
yeah, that's what makes me happy. I'm not going to apologize for it. So I'll have a lot of fun cubing and hopefully hanging out with people I don't see every week.
sure.
Hopefully, I don't know. I know you're doing something Saturday. How's your weekend look? Like, do you think you're gonna be able to get over to Orlando at any point?
I don't know. I mean, I ended up like refunding my registration, so I don't
Okay.
even have a badge currently.
Mm.
So like you said, I've got plans like most of the day Saturday for myself, and then watching watching my own child Saturday
Sure.
evening while my wife and son go out because they have plans, and then I think we've got some like family Easter stuff for Sunday like this.
That
It'd
makes
be
sense.
rather unfortunate time to have a regional schedule, but
Yeah.
it happens. It is what it is. And then yeah, I don't know. It's still a little unfortunate or like little bitter not being able to play this weekend. I think that I really enjoyed the format. I think that there was a lot of potential for like we've seen these sub top tier archetypes be successful, and I think that there is room for that to continue to be the trend this weekend. So with that being said, I want to close things out with a few questions for you, John. You've still been preparing in this format. I would like to know, what do you think will be the highest placing non first page metagraphic deck? So basically, what is going to be the high? You could say what is the best, our highest placing, best of the rest deck. So we'll exclude Dragapult, Gardevoir, Goldengo, Zoroark, Grimmsnarl, and what would a sixth deck be? I'd have to go back and look at a metagraphic for this.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up a metagraphic for what they use for the stream. Give me one sec.
Let me see for Houston. Okay, top six decks in Houston were still Dragapult, Zoroark, Goldengo, Gardevoir, Grimmsnarl, and Charizard. And then when we got to phase two, Crustle got included there
Well,
instead of Charizard. But I would say from phase, so we'll go off of that phase one thing. Charizard's still included. Shouldn't
I mean,
be,
I'm going to
but
be
is what it
biased
is.
and just pick my deck for
You're gonna pick. Hey,
Frostlass
it got
Muckidori. I mean,
it got second.
Alex Mansky got second, and I mean, it was on the outside looking in Seville. Like, there was one, I think, let's say like right outside. It was in the top 16.
Yeah,
One champion, so good.
definitely a good pick. Definitely a solid choice. I didn't really have an answer prepared for this one, so I'm just gonna not pick the same deck you did, and I'll say Festival Lead.
Okay.
We'll see that up there again. I don't think that anything like Raging Bolt, Sarah Ledge, Joltik Box, like none of that stuff is going to do well. Nobody's going to play my silly Yon Mega deck, so it won't be up there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That is what it is. So we've got you down for Frostlass Muckidori and myself for Festival Lead for highest placing non-first page metagraphic deck. Next would be, what do you think the highest placing Crustle will be this weekend? To loop it all back to the beginning of the show.
It's really tough to say. I don't think it'll have quite the generational run that it had at the special event over the weekend.
Okay.
I'm going to just say top 64. I don't think it's bad, but I think that's probably about as high as it gets. Like, I think people know how to deal with it, or will have an idea of how to deal with it at this point. And if they don't,
do you think people will be respecting it then? Like, is that kind of the stance you're taking?
At least have somewhat of a game plan going against it. Like, even if they don't really make drastic changes to their deck, I would say that the vast majority of top players will have an idea of how to deal with Crustle, or like, maybe one or two cards if they can fit it in there. Like, if it's Golden Go, you're running Mega Lopunny. If it's Grimmsnarl, maybe adding a Bravery Charm for like, that doesn't really change anything. Like, maybe adding a second Badu or something like that to like help that matchup. I don't know, make it more like a Frostlass Muckidori deck or something like that.
Okay.
I don't know what you do exactly, but I think at this point, like, it's interesting. Like, I say all that, and then I could see also a world where people just don't respect it, and it just pops off and hits good matchups and hits 3 Zoroarks in a row and does really well. I don't know. I'll probably eat these words or something like that, but top 64 for now is where I think it's that's the level of respect I give it.
Yeah. I still, again, don't think that it's a super great Pokemon deck, but I do think that, we've seen the last two tournaments, people haven't been fully respectful of it. So I do think we will see one get some money and we'll see a top 32 out of somebody. But then they'll hit John and he'll push them out of the way with his Frostlass Monkey Dory deck. Or maybe they'll run into Drew Kennett playing Festival Lead. And, I'll get all of my predictions will come true all at once. Then the last thing that I was going to ask would be, do you think, so we've seen Mega Absol Boxes win an event in this format. We've seen Goldango win an event in this format. We've seen Gardevoir win an event in this format. And I think the other one, San Juan, was won by Saraledge. Not really super relevant for this. But between Gardevoir and... Actually, I'm going to change the question I was going to ask you. What do you think will be the highest placing deck that is rotating this year? So that gives you Goldango, Charizard, Gardevoir. We can lump Joltik Box into that because they're losing Miraidon and Iron Hands.
That's a tough one. I think it's between Goldengo and Gardevoir for me. I don't think Charizard's in a really good spot right now, just with how much grass and just Dragapult's around. And I think it'll probably be Gardevoir if I had to guess between those two. Not that I don't think, I think Goldengo's not in the worst spot right now. People are still not respecting it, but it's just a little too, I like the list that was the agency list that...
Oh, Josh Frank?
Yeah, that you have the Iono, you have the secret box to be able to find that. So I like that aspect of it a little bit, where you're able to okay, I know this hurts me, but I also need some way of disrupting their hands. So they can't just sit on whatever they win the game with.
Sure.
I think I could see it's really close between those two decks, but I'll just give the edge to Gardevoir. I think there's just a more loyal fan base, and like you said earlier in the podcast, those are the biggest brain players are the ones that have played Gardevoir, right, Aaron?
That's the public opinion. I'd be hard pressed to argue with it. I do think, like you said, the general Goldango list, like the agency that people have attempted to give themselves outside of Josh Frank's list, has been the kind of surge of popularity of legacy energy in the deck to offset the prize trade. I don't think that's enough to really push the deck over the line. I think we'll maybe see one Goldango and ASIM this weekend, but I do think we'll see at least one Gardevoir make its way into Top Cut proper, whether it's Henry Chow, Aban, or maybe somebody even different. Remains to be seen, but I do think that we'll have at least one of them in top 8. I don't know if I really see Guardy winning this event. I'd be hard pressed to tell you which deck I really think is going to take the whole event down, but I do think that of those rotating decks, Joltik Box is typically not played by a high enough caliber of player, not to disparage people that do play Joltik, but typically, it's a relatively straightforward deck. People do have game plans into it. People know how to play around it. It's a deck that ends up faltering unless you draw your... if you can save your Prime Catcher or you draw Boss / Arvin off of the Iono to 2 that's inevitably going to hit you, and you just end up crumbling as a result of that. Charizard, like you said, is really relatively poorly positioned. We've got a lot of grass decks that have popped up. The Zoroark matchup got worse. The Frostlass decks are way up and also performing very well, which you just do very poorly into. And Dragapult got Pokepad, which just makes that matchup even worse. So Charizard definitely not going to be the winner there. So again, same logical trail that you kind of went down. We've got Goldango and Gardevoir, and I'd be hard pressed to not give it to Gardevoir here. So it's boring, but I'm going to agree with you on that.
Fair enough. But I mean, that'll be interesting to see exactly what happens. I would never have predicted what happened in Seville. So it'll be really interesting to see if people come out with, hey, I've got my Worlds Invite, I've already won Originals. Let's just play something wacky and crazy for the last one of the year, for the last tournament before rotation. So that'll be fun to see if we get some cool, wacky decks that nobody was expecting. And I'm excited to kind of play in it and have boots on the ground reporting for y'all next week, and hopefully talk about a decent tournament run. I'm not going to bore you with sour grapes if it goes bad, but I'll definitely try to, talk a little bit about my experience and how it is playing versus judging and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully y'all enjoy that. And thanks for listening.
Perfect. Thank you all very much. As John said, we appreciate everybody that listens to the episode, even you, Bugo. So hit us up. If you have more comments, hit us up in the comment section of Spotify, or hopefully I can actually get this week's episode up on YouTube and not have any video issues this time. But you can find us over there as well, or you can follow us on socials. All of the links to those will be in the description of the episode below. And John and I will see you guys next time we are able to record, and see you on the Battle Frontier.
Have a good week.